Bakery, Father Becker, Reverend Fathers, any honored guests, and my dear brothers. My brothers, it is my turn to tell you all about how God brought me to seminary. Now, you better enjoy it because it's the only vocation story you'll hear this semester. It starts when I was about 6 years old. I was sitting in the back of my parish asking God what he wanted me to do with my life. And after asking him a few times, the idea of the priesthood came into my mind. And at the time, I had literally no knowledge of what a priest did outside of an hour-long mass every Sunday. So naturally, I thought, that's cool. Anyway, as I went on into grade school, the priesthood remained in the back of my mind. And at different times, I either wanted to be a boat salesman or a priest, a CIA sniper or a priest, before finally setting on being either a professional football player or a CIA sniper when in the 8th grade. And in all seriousness, though, when I was younger, I carried with me a deep faith in God. It was a very strong relationship, and I talked to him as if he was a friend sitting beside me. But this all changed in the latter part of the 5th grade for me. You see, a friend of mine that was very important to me, she died. And with that, I was hurt very deeply. My faith with God was crushed. The once joyous and happy child faded into a hurt, scared boy. I felt empty and broken on the inside, and I grew to resent God, and I hated life. My brothers, I lived in this life for several years until I was a sophomore in high school, when a friend of mine invited me to his church. The year before, when we were freshmen, he found out I was Catholic, so I thought he wanted to convert me, so he was a Southern Baptist. And admittedly, though, it almost worked. See, what happened was, I only went just to have someone to hang out with, so that's all I really wanted in high school. And when I went to his church, something happened that I could never have expected. I felt God. I felt him in my heart for the first time in 4 years. And with that, he began to draw me closer to him and heal the wounds that I had in my heart. And after the service was over, I was invited into a peer ministry room where my friend happened to be sitting. And as I entered the door, a smile crossed his face, and he looked at me and he said, "Sam, God's got good things in store for you." And I thought to myself, I know. And the only thing in my mind was the thought of the priesthood. See, after this, I started to go to my friend's church on Wednesdays regularly for the next 6 months, just because of the initial feeling that I had there, but I eventually quit. See, for a short time, I did consider joining it, becoming a Southern Baptist, but there's one thing that kept me away from it, and it was the sacrament of confession. You see, my knowledge of confession prevented me from doing that because the reconciliation of a Protestant sins happens in their mind upon their death, and with my knowledge of confession, it just didn't make sense. So, after that, I decided to take my faith more seriously. I began to discern the priesthood deeply, and I began to take Mass more seriously. And about 11 months later, I accepted in my heart the call to seminary. And another few months later, I decided to tell my parents. You see, I only actually told 3 people that I was going to go to the seminary. One was a friend, and to this day I still don't know why I told her, but I made her promise not to tell anyone. To my knowledge, she didn't. The other 2 people were my parents, and I made them promise not to tell anyone. So, naturally, you can imagine my shock when my dad came home from work the next day and announced that he had told his men's group that I was going to go to seminary. From that, the secret was out, and it spread like wildfire. In April of my junior year, I first met with my vocations director, and upon his suggestion, I began to attend daily Mass. For the next 11 months, I met with Father Alex regularly, once a month, and slowly completed the application process before being officially accepted as a seminarian on March 19th, 2010, the Feast of St. Joseph. and I showed up here the following August. Men, as I finish my talk, I want to leave you with one thought, and that is gratitude. You see, all too often we can get caught up in the pursuit of humility, and from that we only grow more prideful. But rather, we must remain grateful to God, because it is through through being grateful to God that we realize precisely how much we need Him, and through that we can do nothing but grow more humble. Praise be Jesus Christ.
Now and forever.